I started playing New World back in November of 2022. And after playing for about a year now, I have a lot of thoughts about different aspects of the game. I did a video a while back on the new player experience, but the reason we're doing this video today is because I came into the game so much later than everybody else. I needed to find good resources on YouTube to kind of help me along my way. And one of those people that I've really enjoyed watching and following for the last year has been Duke Sloth. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, Duke Sloth has amazing content where he talks about New World, the state of the game, different balance changes, the way different, like which armor traits are best, all these sorts of things. I definitely recommend going to check him out. He did a video yesterday talking about the state of his channel, the state of New World, his overall opinion on the direction. And long story short, I'll provide a link in the description if you guys want to go watch it. I highly recommend it. But his point of view is that after the expansion, he was expecting a big Season 4 release where they were going to provide cross-server expeditions, arenas, these sorts of things, and it was going to keep retention in the game. One of the biggest things that I think New World really lacks, and I think Duke Sloth agrees, is player loops that keep people playing the game. Currently, the way New World functions is it's a lot more of a seasonal game. You come in, you try out the new stuff, and there's just not a ton of content right now. Part of it's because of they're making up for the fact that they had a not so good game release, and they're trying to dig themselves out of that initial hole. Now, I will be critical in this video, guys. I will be critical. I will be talking about the game. I really enjoy this game. If you guys have been following my channel for a little bit now, I really enjoy New World. I think New World's heading in the right direction. I think the developers are doing awesome things. I talk highly about what they're doing as far as a lot of the balance changes that they've made. I think overall, they're definitely heading in the right direction, but they still just have so much further to go. And so this video isn't meant as a let's shit on New World video. This is meant as a constructive criticism. What can they do to keep the ball rolling? And a lot of this was inspired by Duke's last video. So we will be discussing PvE, we will be discussing PvP, and we'll be discussing the new player experience from my perspective and from players that I talk to on a regular basis, you know, either in my Discord or in other Discords. So obviously this is anecdotal evidence. I would want to hear your guys' feedback as well, so we can, you know, kind of come up with a group consensus basically. But yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just here to have a conversation. You guys can agree or disagree. It doesn't matter. This is just my point of view. This is points of views that I have heard. So without further bullshitting, let's dive into the video. Now, we are going to start off with the new player experience. It is no shock that if you started playing this game back in 2021, the new player experience was awful. You had to do town boards for experience. You had to go to the town board. You had to go do some shitty fetch quest, and you had to go level up. I have two friends that were trying to level up during this time when the game first dropped, and they told me they spent 30 to 40 plus hours just doing fetch quests nonstop because that was the best way for experience. They were trying to get to endgame, and it was so boring and so monotonous that they basically spent an entire work week doing these fetch quests, and they only got to like level 30 or level 40 or something. I forget what the exact number was, but they didn't get the end game, and that's a problem. And obviously they made it a lot better back in 2022 when I did it. It was the main quest line, but the main quest line was also boring. It was better. Obviously what I went through was a lot better than what my friends went through a year before, but it's kind of like the analogy that I'm going to use here is like, you have a choice, right? Your choice is to get punched in the face by Prime Mike Tyson with no gloves, or to get punched in the face by some random UFC MMA fighter. Yeah, not getting punched in the face by Prime Mike Tyson is better, but you're still getting punched in the face. And so yes, 2022 new player experience is better, but it's still not very good. It is a big hurdle for new players to get over in order to get an end game, in order to have players experience and enjoy the good aspects of the game. Now, I've heard this a lot. This is my point of view. This is my perspective. You see a lot of MMO players say, oh, you can't have an experience. You can't have an opinion on a game unless you play 300, 400, 500, 1,000 hours in the game. If you're not an end game player, how can you really talk about the game? Which I personally think is bullshit. I think having a perspective on the new player experience, and if the new player experience is so bad that players can't get to your end game to enjoy it, that's a problem. That is a problem for overall retention. You can bring people in with cool, fun patches, but if they can't get to the point to where they're continually doing the end game loops and enjoying the overall game, it is a problem for your game as a whole. And I think this is a huge aspect of the issues that New World currently has. Is the beginning loop is tough. I have 2 friends trying to level up right now. They hear us talk highly about the new expansion, which I think is great. But they've been starting from 0 to 60, and both of them say that it's really awful. I have another friend that started doing it about right when the expansion came out. He made a new character. He decided to give New World a shot. He's enjoying the end game, but the grind was unenjoyable. It was unfun. And so what can we do about it? First of all, the storyline isn't very great. 0 to 60, the storyline, in my opinion, is pretty bad. 61 to 65, Elysian Wilds, like that entire thing, not bad. Not bad. I actually really liked it. I thought they did a really good job. And so doing more content, beginner content, make the quest better than like go from point A to point B, fetch quests, essentially hashing out and fleshing out the lore and the story of Eternum, I think would be a very big deal. And I think it would help players get to endgame better if they were enjoying the game along the way a little bit better. The only reason I was able to stick around with it is I had 3 or 4 people grinding with me at the same time. So we were all trying out the game, and so randomly we would flag for PvP. We wouldn't see anybody because we were on Lilith, and nobody was flagging at that point in time. And we would flag for PvP, and then when we couldn't find it, we would just go duel somewhere. And so we were all relatively the same level, and we got a taste of endgame PvP. We got to duel each other at similar levels, and we got to see what the combat felt like, and that's when we realized for us that the game was worth grinding, it was worth playing. And so that's what kept us around. If I played this game by myself, I probably would have stopped playing earlier, if we're being honest, because it was that unfun for me. I couldn't get into arenas. I couldn't do, well, we'll talk about PvP later. On to PvE. I am not an endgame raider. I haven't done the Sand Dune trial or anything like that. I've done all the expeditions. I've done all of them at M1, quite a few, most of them at M2, like 1 at M3. But I'm not an end game expedition player or anything like that. I do it for artifacts. That's what I do. I do it for artifacts. I do it for dark matter. And so my perspective is overall, the expeditions are fun. I do actually enjoy them quite a bit. Some of it is because I'm newer to doing them. So I don't have that burnout, but there isn't many. And I think one of the biggest issues that New World has is that only 2 expeditions per week have the mutations, the harder levels. And so if you wanted to go do a random expedition, you couldn't do it. You could only do the 2 on a loop. And so I think sometimes I think it makes it unfun. Sometimes you just don't like a certain expedition, right? Like you just don't want to do the same expedition. I was trying to farm magnetic gauntlets this week. You know, after 2 back-to-back 45-minute runs, trying to farm magnetic gauntlets, I was done. I did not want to do it anymore that day because it was so, you just get, pug groups are going to pug group, and that's the way it happens sometimes. And so sometimes you have a bad experience or you just don't like a specific expedition and you want to play something else. Well, you got to wait a week. Well, what are you going to do when you wait a week in doing PvE? You're not going to play, you might not play the game. You might play something else. And so I think that's a problem. I think that's a problem for New World as a whole. I think the expeditions are good, but I think they need more of them. And I think they need to have more access to more mutations. And so there's not much they can do about this in the short term, but they just need to keep grinding out new expeditions. They need to do more endgame, like worm style trials with multiple people. Just having one, it's a content issue. Like people, you can enjoy that one thing only so much before you start to get bored of it. And yeah, more content in this department I think would be really good. As far as Overland goes, it's better. It's better than ESO in my perspective. I think the combat is a lot better. I think it's a lot more fun, more enjoyable. I don't mind doing the chest runs. The world trains had their moment for me for a bit. I don't think it's an endless end game loop that I could do, but yeah, like some of the artifact farms have brought some of this stuff back, some of this combat back. But overall, I think just fleshing out expeditions would be a good thing. And finally, PvP. The main reason I got into New World. I think PvP is fun. There's a few things that I don't really like from a combat perspective, but as a whole, I really enjoy it. And this is the reason I keep coming back to New World, is because I love the New World combat. I think the New World combat is a lot of fun. I think artifacts have breathed a lot of life into PvP for me. Me being able to theory craft and come up with different weapon layouts and different things, them making gear easier to get, easier to acquire, so I can play different playstyles. When I first started, I was basically bow, spear, bow, rapier, and then I did a little bit of rapier, spear towards the end, and now I mostly play rapier, spear now. But because they've done things with like magnify, and because they've made it easier to access gear, I can go out and I can run. If I ever get my hands on Abyss, I could run Abyss. I could run a Great Axe. I could run Ice Gauntlet, Void Gauntlet. There's so many different things that I can mix and match for my build, and I can get competitive rather quickly. And it's just really nice for continuing allowing people to stay in these game loops, stay connected in the game, and it makes the longevity of the game last longer when you have more access to more builds. I think that New World really did hit this out of the park. From my perspective, I think it's great just to try different things. From my perspective as well, watching my friends try different builds, I think it's just so much easier to do. You're not just locked into one specific build, and then you have to go and try and get the gold to farm all these other specific things and try something out and go through the pains of learning something new. You kind of have access to pretty decent stuff right away. And so all this is good. Well, what's the bad part about PvP? Well, you only have 2 arenas. There's only 2 arenas available in the game, which is hugely problematic. Like it's like playing Favela on Call of Duty all day, every day. Like it doesn't matter how much you enjoy Call of Duty, it doesn't matter how much you enjoy Favela, but if you're playing it all day, every day, at some point you're going to want to play something else. It just doesn't matter. If you have the exact same map that you're playing every single day for 2 weeks, you're going to get bored out of it. You're just going to get bored, and then you go to the next one. And so when you look at it from that perspective, from like a Duke Sloth perspective that's been playing this game for years now, and there's only 2 arena maps, it's understandable. It doesn't mean that he dislikes the game or anything. It's just, how often can you play the same arena over and over and over again? There's only the one OPR map. And so those things, it adds up. It doesn't mean the game's bad. It just means the game's going a little stale and more content needs to be done, more maps. And I'm not saying one map. Like, they need to come out with 4 or 5 different arena maps. They need to come out with 3 or 4 different OPR maps and not rotate them weekly or bi-weekly. Like, have it be a queue where you can just queue in and it's one of the 5 random maps. That's, in my opinion, the way they need to go. That will add so much longevity to OPRs and so much longevity to arenas. And from what we saw with cross-server OPRs earlier this year and how it breathed a lot of life back into the game, having these fresh maps constantly being rotated in as like an RNG choice would be huge. And so I think, from my perspective, from the outside looking in, it looks like they're doing a really good job of constantly tweaking and adjusting balance in PvP, really trying to make sure that things aren't overtuned, that things aren't busted, that things aren't broken. Like this last week, for instance, evade is crashing people in the game, and there's another skill as well. They instantly went in and they disabled them. It sucks because I'm running rapier and I do run evade, but at the same time, it's a lot more enjoyable from a player experience to just not have access to those skills and have access to the game than deal with something that's going to kick me out of the game nonstop. And so I don't enjoy it as a rapier player, but at the same time, it's so much better than the other options. And so the things happen, they're working on it, and that's all you can hope for, right? And so these sorts of things are great. They're adjustments to other balance issues with other weapons. The shirking heals adjustments, yes, they did go a little heavy-handed at the end. They did say that they're going to not do that anymore, which is great. But overall, just constantly adjusting them, it would have been really problematic for the game if shirking heals stayed the way it did throughout the entire season 3. And other games are like that, where they'll just go, hey, we're not going to touch it till season 4. This is just the way it is. You know how many people would have quit dealing with just shirking heals the way it was initially? Raise your hand in the comments. Like I bet a lot of you would have been frustrated. I think their balance stuff is good. I think the main issue is like the content's just getting a little stale. Like I do like the influence races. I think the influence races are great. Can't really comment on the wars. I haven't got in from the war perspective. I like more of the smaller scale style PvP personally. Influence races I enjoy. OPRs I enjoy. Arenas I enjoy, except when it's not the old map. I like the new map. The old map I'm burnt out on. I'll be completely honest with you guys. And so I think a lot of what we're talking about here is sadly New World dug themselves a hole with their not so good release. They're doing a great job. I have nothing but good things to say about everything they've done in the last year, the direction they're heading. Obviously, not everything's perfect. They're not just completely saving the game and like now we're going to be back to where the game was in 2021 or anything like that, but they're heading in the right direction. They're heading in the right direction. The game's really enjoyable. It's at a point to where I recommend it to friends. I recommend it to people looking for a new game. I think New World is in an enjoyable spot, especially for 20. Like if you can get it on sale for like $20, you're going to get $20 worth of game out of this. And so that's my perspective. I really do enjoy this game. I really am having fun with it. I'm having fun doing content on it. I'm having fun talking about it. But just because I'm enjoying it doesn't mean it's perfect. And so I want to be clear when I'm talking about this. I don't hate this game. I don't dislike this game and want to see it fail or anything like that. I'm not shitting on Amazon Gaming Studios. My perspective is the game is fun. I wish more people could see it. But yeah, if you've been playing since launch, like people like Duke Sloth, and you've enjoyed PvP like he does, and you see the same maps over and over again, and you see them cut back on cross-server arena that they were expecting in Season 4 and stuff, you're going to go from, maybe this isn't going to be an all-time thing. Maybe this is going to be I play it when the new season drops, and when I get bored, I move on to something else. And I think Amazon wants people to be playing this game more. I mean, it would benefit them if it did, but currently that's how I would approach New World. I'd play it when you think it's fun. I would enjoy it, but the minute you start to get bored because they're not introducing new things or you're bored of maps and stuff, take a break, go play something else. And so it's a little bit of a different perspective in the MMO space because a lot of MMO players know life in MMO for years, but that's where New World is right now. It's early in its life process. New World's early in its development life, and it needs content. It needs time for this to happen, and instead of getting mad at the game, maybe play something else and wait for them to make adjustments and improvements. And then if they don't do stuff that you like, find something else. And so that's my perspective. I'm going to end this video here. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about this video, this type of discussion. Let me know if you agree or disagree. I'll see you guys in the comments section. Take care. Have a nice day.